So you worked on a journal together. So before you knew anything else about each other, like your soulmates, you knew that you were both. You must have shared some sort of affinity for the written word, for literature.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would say also, like, not only were we both on a literary journal, but it was a literary art journal, and we were both like definitely like literary people, like so. I think we definitely like had the experience of uh, like enjoying the same stories and that sort of thing.
Well, and I did become like, I always kind of thought, I mean, I always appreciated Patrick's writing when we were on the journal together, because he was also like, we were also in a creative writing club together
Which you
at
started.
Hamlin, which I started. And, but I always liked his writing. That was kind of like the first thing I noticed about him. I mean, other than, of course, he's cute. But the writing, I was always really into his stories when he was, and that was back when we were doing more like literary fiction type of thing. So yeah.
So did you at one point also want to write, or have you always been editorially minded?
Yeah, so I've written some. I've done some work for hire projects, some fiction, some nonfiction in the past, and I do some writing on my own. My original plan was to like become a full-time writer when I got out of college, but then I was kind of like, well, I had some internships in editing that I really liked, and I was like, well, I would like to make it more of like my career right away and not like starve in the meantime. So I did still do some writing and hope to eventually publish. So right now I write some middle grade and some young adult. I have a couple projects that I'm working on at this point.
So she's selling herself short. She actually is a great writer, and she's also a machine. I'm like totally envious of this because, when she's done for hire work, these are very tight deadlines you work on, and sometimes you get like series. And she just like churns through these things, and meanwhile I'm like agonizing, like what do I do next in the story? And she just churns through, and they're just these perfectly tight, beautifully written plots. So.
Yeah, we write really like our processes are completely different. Yeah.
So what's your process then, Mari?
So I'm sort of more of like a planner and methodical. So I tend to like plan out my plots ahead of time. And I think that kind of comes from my editing background too. I don't think I'm good at just kind of going on the fly. I like to kind of know where the story is going. And yeah, I mean, I think that's, in opposition to you.
So my whole motto is, I just do whatever I can to keep the fingers typing, and for me, knowing where the story is going, it bores me, and so I'm much less likely to actually keep writing. And so I do that whole obnoxious artistic thing where I'm like pretty much just going by the seat of my pants, sentence by sentence, just because I want to be surprised by what happens in the story.
That makes sense. And Patrick, I know you've got a new book, and I promise we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about writing, but super rare an opportunity. I have to ask some of these follow-up questions. So this difference in style of writing, does that bleed over a little bit into your domestic life? For example, does one of you file the taxes, pay the bills, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say.
Mari, I am shocked that that is the case.
Yeah, the overlap is complete.
Yes, that's true. But I would also say that it makes me look good to be like the one doing the bills and taxes and things like that. But Patrick has much more patience at a task than I do. So he, for example, will play with our daughter for hours on end, where I can probably do an hour and then kind of like, I need to do something else now. So, I think it's a good balance between the two of us.
Yin and yang kind of thing.
Yeah. I won't lie. It does cause conflict sometimes.
That sounds like a great partnership.
Yeah.
It's similar to what Mrs. Kent and I have got going on. She's usually on the bills and the taxes, and I'm playing for hours with my child. So,
and then, good, don't we?
What did I want to ask you? So obviously with the 4-year-old thrown in the mix, and you're both writing at different times. How do you navigate that? Will one of you watch while the other one writes, and then you switch off, or how do you make time for your writing?
Yeah, I think that's it's pretty accurate what we do. It's kind of an amazing thing. Even while we're pretty much fully quarantined right now, we will realize that we hardly see each other throughout the day because we're just taking shifts. We just go back and forth. So I mean, we can hear each other clacking away at the keyboard, and like if we have a question, we can ask it. But like we're pretty much usually we're not in a very big house, but one's downstairs and one's upstairs. We're just doing shifts right now.
Well, we don't always really know what each other is working on either. Like I will find out that Patrick's been working on something and I won't know much about it. Just because it's just not something that we have a ton of time to discuss right now.
Yeah, I mean, when we first were dating, we were always sharing projects
Sending
with each other.
things back and forth all the time. Yep. But it's a little harder now.
Oh, that's wonderful. Your passion for art tied in with your love for each other. Oh my God, it's a poem. And do you swap critiques or edit each other at this point?
Yes, but not nearly enough these days.
Not much now. Yeah.
But I really think that's. Well, Mari's actually the best editor I've ever had, so that's why I'm saying not nearly enough. There's this great. Do you know William Maxwell? He was like the editor of New Yorker, and for years and years, and he wrote a book, So Long, See Tomorrow. Anyway, there's this great quote that I'm not going to get exactly right, but he was apparently so gentle and agile with his editing that he often would make supposedly somewhat substantial changes, and the writer wouldn't notice. He was so in tune. And Mari really takes the time to try to figure out what kind of story am I trying to tell, or what are her authors trying to say. This isn't supposed to be a sales pitch, by the way. This is just real. This is early on in our relationship, she did quite a bit of editing my work, and I just always felt emboldened without feeling like she was cheating me out of actually telling me what she really thought. And I don't think I've ever done
nice.
I don't know if I've ever done that for you. So.
Patrick, I'd say I bounce ideas off Patrick. I'll be like, what do you think of this, idea for kind of a plot or something? That's kind of where I am right now with my writing, is I'm planning some projects. So because he's so good with ideas and interest level of things, that I just find it really helpful to get his insight on that kind of stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would just say too that in response to Patrick, I always believe that as an editor, I always believe that the book belongs to the author. And so I always kind of bring that mindset into editing and thinking about what they want the book to be, and just trying to make it the best it can be within their vision.
Yeah, it sure does.
Well, that sounds like an incredibly productive and almost professional in that respect. Part of your relationship, you're both professional authors. You take it, so there's no got your notes earlier, honey. Oh, I burned dinner. Just yours, though.
Yeah, I think we do. I think there are probably pluses and drawbacks to. One of them is lack of money is a drawback. But, to being married to someone who has similar interests, literary interests. But one of the huge advantages is that, Mari totally gets it when I feel like I'm just absolutely on fire with an idea and I got to go to the computer and get it down. And I think hopefully she would feel I do the same thing. That's the time when we say, I got the kid, you go do your thing. And I think that's hard for the rest of the world sometimes to understand. Yeah,
well, that is true. And I also say that we don't always like what each other writes either, you
don't?
So, and we have very kind of different styles really as writers, and different interests too. So it's, I don't know, I think that just kind of adds to what we can, what kind of feedback we can give each other.
Is it so I've heard of relationships between actors where one of them will have an audition that goes well and go on to get the part, while the other one's had 3 auditions all and so close but didn't work out, and now there's just uncomfortable silence at the dinner table. I'm so happy for you. So I'm assuming throughout the years one of you's had good publishing news, and then the other one, because that tends to trade off.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think we're mostly on it, just kind of like, you know, supporting each other, but I just feel like I'm always talking first.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, I think for the most part, we are just like supportive of each other. She knows that, for instance, sometimes she'll be talking about her job, and even though I love my job, and I'm an English teacher, high school English teacher, she'll look at me and be like, "You're jealous of what I'm telling you right now, aren't you?" Like, you know, she has a really cool job often, and I do sometimes feel jealous of that.
Yeah, and I think I had somebody tell me once when, like, right before we got married, that like sometimes you might need to like take a walk when you're in professions that are so similar and your experiences are going to be different, you know. And that is, I mean, I think for the most part, you know, like Patrick says, we try to be supportive of each other, and we also understand kind of like all the emotions involved in, you know, being a writer and trying to get a story on paper and then trying to publish a story or a book, and all the kind of ups and downs that go with that. So I think that we can support each other in that way, because we get it, you know.